Okay. Let me make sure the stream is not horrible. It's not great. But okay, we are gonna get started. I am recording, thank you. I am recording. So, we are going to try to use this room on Mondays and Wednesdays. And we're going to have to use the other room on Saturdays still, because the Tuesday-Thursday class can't use this room, because there's already a Tuesday-Thursday cohort that takes precedence over us, because they started first. So, they get this room first. Anyway, how does people like it better so far? Cool. Okay, well, yeah, you're fair. We haven't tried it out yet, so can we really give it an assessment? I don't know. Yeah, the monitor works. It's just a smaller resolution, and I can't figure out how to fix it. So the recordings are kind of weird, so I'll check them out tonight after I upload them and see if they're still okay. And that'll just be on me to figure out how the hell to make them better. So I gotta figure that out, but otherwise it should be okay. We shouldn't have too many problems. Today is gonna be a fun day for everyone because we're literally just gonna review everything we've gone over today, so far in the class. And it's kind of going to be up to you all to let me know what you want me to review for maybe the first, I don't know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes or so. And then we're just going to spend the rest of the class time working in groups, kind of reviewing whatever you want. Doing activities, working on homework, honestly doesn't matter. And then the TAs and I will walk around to everyone and just answer questions and help you out throughout the class, and that's literally all we're doing. So it's a good day to kind of like step back, take a deep breath, think about the things that are still bugging you, and we'll kind of move on there. So the class schedule says to do a poll to get feedback. I literally did that Saturday, so I'm not going to do it again. I already got a bunch of feedback, which was great feedback. A lot of it, the class is fast. I know it is very fast. That sucks. The TAs and I are going to do our best to walk around more and like be as present as we possibly can at all times to help you as much as we can, and to do our best to find different ways to kind of like introduce the material and stuff to help people understand it better, because you know I teach one way, Chris teaches a way, Stephanie teaches a way, right? So we all teach different ways, and some people will get one form of teaching better than the others. If anyone, like I said, like always, if anyone has any feedback they want to add, feel free, just let me know. Honestly, and if I'm in the middle of class and I do something and you're like, hey, I didn't really like how you did that activity, maybe we could have done it this way, that'd been great, or maybe we can do this activity XYZ, like that'd be awesome too. I honestly don't care. I want to build the kind of environment here where you guys don't, no one's like afraid to tell me what they think about the class, and I'm not going to get offended because my job is to make this as good for all of you as I can. So with that in mind, I want to kind of break the class up into groups, either based on the content or that you want to go over when we're in our free period or what. I'm going to guess most people are probably going to spend their time with JavaScript and jQuery. Does anyone want to review HTML or anything like that, or CSS or any of that stuff? Yeah?
I think this is actually a decent place to start. Since this homework this week requires a lot of we have a reset, and then we have a style sheet, and then we have one of us that we should get Bootstrap in there too.
Yep.
What's the proper order to do all that?
Okay, that's a really good question. Yeah, so one of the things Heather brought up before class, to pivot off that, or to use that, Andy, is she feels like when we're starting a project, she doesn't know where to start. And I feel like a lot of people probably suffer with that. Like, hey, go do this activity. And you're like, okay, great. I think I know what to do. I think I know all the components, and most of you do. But, like, where the hell do I start? Like, how do I even approach this problem, right? So I was thinking maybe we could come up with a cool idea or something simple we could all do together and, like, start together and try to get as much done as we can. and cover some of the topics that are bothering all of us. Hey, we'll add some functions here, whatever. We'll start with like, hey, what's the order of adding this stuff in to the HTML page, right? Those kinds of things. So I figured that might be a good thing to do. If anyone has anything specifically they'd like to talk about that we maybe would want to do in like an exercise first, let me know. But otherwise, we could just kind of go off of that. Is there a particular activity that anyone wants to see that we could just start fresh and do together? Or, I mean, I didn't have any great ideas. I was like, maybe we'll just make our own kind of crappy version of the calculator. Or something like that. Yeah, let's do that. Crappy version of the calculator? Cool. I like it. We'll figure out how to get that and make it look okay and kind of work. And we should be able to do that in about 45 minutes. And then you'll have time to kind of do what you want and study whatever you want. That being said, looks like we have pretty good distributions. I don't know if there's maybe a couple of people from some of the bigger tables who want to go sit back with Jose and Peyton, just so we have like more even groups or more distributed groups. Or if you guys want to, is that whole table taken right here with you, Jesse? And there's this. Well, that seat's really kind of cramped by Jacob. I don't know. I don't want anyone to. Yeah, do you guys have enough space? I mean, if you guys both want to sit there, that's fine. I don't want you at a table by yourselves because I want as many people at a table as possible. So we can do one here. We can do one there. I guess you can fit two there. We could do one there, or you guys could both try to squeeze into a table. Kind of up to you. But basically, what I'm saying is you got to move from that table. So we'll leave it up to you, but once we get to the activities, I want as many people at a table as possible so you can all collaborate. And if you find that the table's too loud, kind of break up, try to stay in like groups of 3 or so. And honestly, you can move wherever you want. You guys don't got to move right now because we're all going to work together. But when we get to the free activity, you can go in the hall or whatever, go in another classroom. I really don't care. Like, as long as you're in a group and you're all studying something that you're struggling with, right? So this should be like a study period, a review period for everyone to work together, figure things out, let us come and help you. Don't go into anything too weird because it was kind of hard to find all the groups on Saturday. You guys went into like random rooms I didn't even know existed. Yeah, so we'll deal with that when we get to the breakout. Okay, so I guess we'll start our calculator game from scratch. We'll work on that together. Let me just open up the containing folder here. Alright, so this is what we've got. Nice. We're off to a good start. So the first question Andy had was we have to add Bootstrap, we have to add in a reset style sheet, we have to add in our own style sheet, we have to add in jQuery, and so on and so forth. And actually, if you're using Bootstrap, you have other things too. We have the Bootstrap CDN, and we have this Popper.js library that they use as well, which I don't even know what it does. It does some stuff that Bootstrap needs, I guess. But there's all kinds of crap that we're going to need if we want to do like a modern web application, right? So the order of operations, basically, of this stuff is going to be reset stuff first, CDN second, your stuff last, basically. So we could actually go ahead and move this all the way down here because it's not that necessary. I was just keeping the links near each other and the scripts near each other, which organizationally makes more sense to me. Boop. Awesome. Thanks for moving, guys. I appreciate it. Okay, so Bootstrap first. That's what this Bootstrap CDN is. Close that. Here's our Bootstrap CDN. I don't have a reset sheet. If I did a reset, I would do it here, okay? The reason why, because if I did it after Bootstrap, I would reset Bootstrap. So that would be our reset, okay? Reset first. First thing first, you want your reset. Because the point of the reset is to reset all the default styles of a browser to a nice, even playing field, so you don't have any weird surprises or weird things that just kind of inject themselves, because CSS does that, right? I've complained about it enough to you guys. You all know. So then, Bootstrap, my CSS, jQuery here. So the reason why we have jQuery before the Popper.js and before Bootstrap is Bootstrap requires this Popper.js, which requires jQuery. Bootstrap also requires jQuery. So think about it in the order in terms of scripts. Think about it in the order that things are needed. So your code is going to need jQuery, so jQuery needs to come before it. Otherwise, your code cannot get to jQuery. It's impossible. So scripts are a little easier in that regard because it's like, if I need jQuery, it has to come before my script. And actually, what's even more recommended is if you have your own script, put it at the bottom of the body tag. This doesn't matter so much when you have the jQuery document ready, but does anyone know why I put it at the bottom of the body tag? The very last thing. Heather, you know?
Because the page has to render first before the code.
Yes, exactly. The page has to completely render before the code, and if you have, you know, some manipulation happening as soon as the code loads, but the DOM hasn't loaded, you're not doing anything. Literally, you won't do anything, and you won't be able to figure out why nothing happens. Now, document.ready that we see in jQuery mitigates that, because it's literally like, don't do anything until the document is done loading completely, right? That's literally what it means. And so all the code inside that document.ready will not happen until all of the DOM has loaded and you've got that on-page load event. So you can get around this, but it's considered best practice still to have your script tags last. Now, these are my script tags. I don't need to put jQuery last. jQuery is not going to do anything to the DOM before it all loads. That's not the point of jQuery. It's a library. Popper.js, Bootstrap, CDNs, JS, whatever, they don't need to wait until the DOM's loaded. I do, though. I should, just for safety. So CSS is obviously a little different. CSS can't be put in the body tag. I mean, you can technically, but not with a link. And you don't really want to. The links here need to be in the head tag, and it doesn't matter when things load. They'll get applied properly after it's all done loading, because what's going to happen is the browser is going to come in here, grab all your CSS style sheets, build the DOM, and then apply the CSS. So that whole painting phase where it paints pretty colors and does all your CSS happens after everything's loaded anyway, so it doesn't really matter when this comes in. It just matters the order you do it so you don't overwrite anything. Yep. Can I psych out this code? Sure. Is like a baseline? Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. Let me go ahead and make a little HTML snippet. Alright, slacked out right now should be this exact code in this exact order. Now I have two other files. I have a main.js and I have a main.css, if you're going to follow along, that are literally in the same directory. Oops. That are literally in the same directory. So they're not nested in anything, none of that fun stuff. They're just boom right there. Any questions on this layout or why you do layout a certain way or anything like that? Nope. Cool. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about like nav bars or anything. I'm not going to worry about mobile responsiveness right now because no one specifically asked about that, and I'm going to focus more on the jQuery JavaScript stuff because that's where I've seen the most people struggling. So our HTML layout and our CSS won't be pretty at all in this calculator. It'll look really bad. If we want to clean it up after and get a better feel for CSS and all that, we can. But I will do the Bootstrap layout to the best of my ability. So when we're starting a Bootstrap layout, what do we start with? A container on what element? A div. Nice. Thanks, Jaime. Container. We got our container. Sweet. There you go. Calculator done. Nice. Alright. The next level in our containers will be our rows. Right? They're also divs. Rope. Nope, not that one. Cool. So we have a row. inside of the row, we need ourselves a column, right? So let's do column large 4. That's the only one we're going to do. It's going to sit on the left of the screen because we're just making a calculator. Now, right now, for all intents and purposes, I have these spaces between my divs. In my production code, I probably wouldn't have as many spaces just because it starts getting unwieldy and large and hard to follow. Now, another thing I'll talk about too while we're doing this, hopefully I'll remember all the time, but formatting. Proper indentation is really important. Closing all of your tags is obviously super important because your HTML won't render if you don't do that. At least it won't render right. So rule of thumb, really quickly, you don't have to add this code. If you open a tag, now I know Visual Studio will do it for me. If I open a tag, the next thing I should do is close the tag. Before I put anything in that tag, before I do anything else, the next thing I should do is close it. If you do that every single time, you'll never forget to close a tag because you've always done it. So make it a habit. Same thing for if I open a set of curly braces in JavaScript or I open a set of parentheses in JavaScript. The first thing you should do is close those parentheses or close those curly braces. If you don't, you'll have the nightmare experience of going through several lines of code trying to figure out where that one curly brace is that you need that you forgot. And I'm sure all of you have already been through that. And it is a terrible experience. Now, code formatters help, but when you have syntax that's messed up, they can't format it right because they break. So when you open something that has a closing partner or has a complement, right? Always put the complement in before you put anything inside of it. Just rule of thumb. Get used to doing it. If you have auto closing, use the auto closing. Just do that. Please, for the love of God, do that. Alright, so we can get rid of some of the extra space. Now, when it comes to spacing your HTML elements, because sometimes you do want space as like a logical break, try to think about them as relevant components. So my rows, between my rows, I would probably do a space. I think that would make sense for me if I had another row here, which we may or may not end up using it, and that's fine, but we'll put it here. It makes sense to me to have a logical break between these. You don't have to do it. You can get rid of the extra space or whatever, but I like to have some sort of a logical break in my code flow, whether it's HTML, JavaScript, or whatever, to tell me when things stop and when things start. Now, one thing I will advise against is random arbitrary space. Keep it consistent, okay? If you have any spacing, limit it to 1 space. And if you have any more than that for any reason, it better be a good reason, and if you do it, make sure it's consistent across every piece of your code that follows that rule, okay? Keep things consistent. The easiest thing to do to make your code better is to make it readable. The more readable you can make it with the more strict format rules you have and syntax rules and stuff, the easier it is for you to go back later and fix it. I don't know how many times the last cohort I went through, I would have someone come to me and say, my page is not rendering. And I would get a big block of HTML that was all in one line. And I said, this is why it's not rendering. I don't know what's happening. And they go, no, it works fine. I go, obviously it doesn't. It's not rendering. So that argument will happen if you don't format your code properly. Okay, so just do your TAs a favor. They are grading your stuff. The more you format it, the better formatted it is, the easier they can grade it, and the better feedback they can give, because their real feedback, when you don't format it, is going to be, what the hell, format your code, please. So that's not feedback you need, right? You know that. We all know that. So let's just keep it in mind, okay? And we'll go over some formatting rules. Now, not saying that there's anyone in here with particularly terrible format. I don't think that. But it's something in the beginning that's hard to remember because you're so worked up trying to like actually solve the problem and remember what to do. It's like back of your mind. But try to keep it in the front of your mind, right? Try to keep it there. Anyway, that's my spiel. Okay, so our calculator, it's going to be, we're just going to go ahead and define a couple of classes, helper classes, and we're just going to define them right here in the head tag for now because I want to use them as kind of like colors so I can see where my layout is going, okay? So I'm going to make a calc class, and I'm just going to set the background to green. We're going to go back to my really fun colors we all love. And I'm gonna add my calc class to this column right here, just so I know what's going on. Dove, that's not it. Actually, I'm gonna move this to this inner div because that's really where the calculator is gonna live. Oh, it's not div either, it's calc. Alright, so if I go ahead and open this, refresh it, we don't get anything because our div doesn't have any content in it yet. That makes sense. But if I go ahead and put a P, this is the calculator. I should get my content now. Okay, that's our calculator. We did it. Nice. But this layout is going to be really important for us, having the colors so we can see where things are going, how they're being like formatted, so on and so forth. Okay. So I'm going to try to breeze through this because I know most people want to know about the JavaScript. If you aren't able to keep up while we're doing it, that's fine. I'll slack it out before we start the JavaScript. Okay. So what are we going to need? We're going to need 4 buttons per row. So we're going to go ahead and do, we're going to div class equals call md small 3. And I'm going to create another style. We're going to move these styles to our style sheet after we're done testing because I don't want to switch between the two right now. Ugh, horrible. See that? That's bad.
You can right click and say format.
Can I? Nice. Yeah, I could. Let's see what it does. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I don't know what to change. Cool. So we should have a button, and I should be able to put a, was it, that's going to be 7, 8, 9 probably. I'm going to model this after the calculator that is literally, or the number pad that is literally, on my machine. This is going to be minus. I'll make it minus. Alright, format. What a nifty tool. So if I open this bad boy up, okay, I have some ugly buttons, but they're there. Like I said, it's not going to be pretty, but it'll work. Cool. So we have buttons. We can probably move the button class to the actual buttons. Probably a good idea. Now that we know. Or actually, we can just get rid of it. We don't need it for now. I just wanted to use it to see where the layout was at. It's good enough. So we're actually going to need a whole nother row. So we'll be able to copy this row. We're going to do it 4 times. And I'm just going to do format document. Boom. Take care of that, please. Nice. It did. So going down, we have 6, 5, 4. 6, 5. Oh, that is backwards. 4, 5, 6. And this one's going to be plus. This one's going to be 1, 2, 3. This is going to go ahead and be times. And this one is just going to be, I guess, 0 and equals and divides and stuff. We'll put 0 right there. Put equals right there. We can change these up later. And this one is just going to be empty. So we don't need this one.
Power.
Power? Oh yeah, we knew of power. Power. Or if you want the carrot. Okay. So let's open this up. Sick calculator, bro. Nice. Looking good. Okay. So we got a big old block of code. We're probably going to want another row then to hold our results. Actually, better yet, better than another row, we can go ahead and put another column and we'll just do them side by side, kind of like we did for the example. So let's take this row. Goodbye, row. And we're going to do div. And this one is going to be another column. Oops. We'll do another LG4. This is going to be our results. We're going to need 4 rows. We're going to have result 1, operator result 2, and then total. Okay? So we're going to do 4 rows. Control-Shift-I. What a cool little tool. Thank you for sharing. So we got our 4 rows. We're going to do we'll do an H1. We'll give this a class. We'll call it input 1. H1. Give this a class. We'll call it input. We'll call this operator. Sorry. We'll do another H1. We'll call this class input 2. And last but not least, we've got our result. And this might be something too that you guys can restyle when you're going over stuff yourself. Okay, so my 4 rows, input 1, operator, input 2, and result. Okay, let's just go ahead, and they're not going to show anything right now, actually. Ooh, here's something I can do. Right above this, I'm going to do an HR. The HR is a little line. So if I go ahead and I go to our sweet page, refresh. Oh, our little line didn't show up. We don't have any content, so I guess it's not rendering. Cool. So let's just put some content in there for now, just so we can see what it'll look like when it renders. Sick. Looks good. I like it. I am a designer. Okay. I think this HR is messing this one up, so didn't actually render anyway. Let's go ahead and remove it and see if it looks that terrible. There you go. Okay, I can live with that. It's not perfect, but it'll do. Alright, what can we do before we get to the JavaScript side of things? What else should we do to make this a little easier? Well, probably we should add some classes to our number buttons, classes to our operator buttons, stuff like that, so we know a little bit about what's going on. So we can use jQuery to get things done too. Ooh, we don't have a clear button now that I look at it as well. So we're going to go ahead and do another div. We're going to make it another row. We're going to do another div, and it's going to be a class call SM. We'll just make this a 6. Button, we'll give it a class. We'll call it the clear button. And it's just going to say clear. Ah, I know something else we can do. We can give it some button primary. Give some classes, right? So clear is going to have a button primary. Our operators, we'll give them a different look. So we're going to give these guys class button danger, and operator button. Actually, I'll do button operator. Button op. How about that? That's a little easier. You may or may not remember it, but I put operator on one of the other things down there, so I'm gonna copy that. Equals, we'll give it its own because it's gonna be special. Alright, so the number buttons we'll probably do button success and button num. And then also we're going to want to give it a value equal to its number. And when I'm done here with our really sick styling, I will select this out. What's up, Matt?
Can you put IDs in front of the buttons too? Like ID equals button 7?
I don't actually want to do that. Do you know why?
I know.
So it's a good idea, but if I do that, that means when I target buttons, I'm going to have to target them individually, which means I'm going to have to do a lot more work to get all this done. If I do it by classes, though, which that button number is going to do, button num, got in there, I'll be able to use jQuery and take advantage of selectors to be able to get my work done, which is going to be much more efficient and save me a lot of time, especially since this part, the layout, is like the least exciting and the most time-intensive part. So we want to make sure that the JavaScript, at least in my opinion, other people may disagree with that, but in my opinion, it is not very fun. So I don't care about this value. Oh, probably need value on the operators too. Is there a button default or something like that? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So equals is gonna be button, button default, and button equal, button dash equal. And then our operators also need a value. I forgot that. So now remember, we want to give them a value written out as text. I guess this is, well, I'm doing it by the operators. Okay, we just take a look at our layout really quick. Nice. Now that is cool. Look at that. I'm gonna get rid of the green background, okay? I don't need to hear it.
Green buttons on green background. I know it's your favorite color, though.
Okay. I could, yeah, I could. Is that better? Does that make you feel good, Rolando?
Yes.
God.
So much easier on the eye.
Alright. So let's get to, I'm going to select this out. You're welcome. I'll give you all a moment to load that into your browsers and make sure it's rendering okay. Now there might have been some things I forgot that I overlooked in here that we could add to make the jQuery easier, and we'll figure that out as soon as we start trying to do anything. But I think most of it's covered. Now, could we change this, reformat this HTML to look different to make it easier to read? Maybe, yeah. I think this is okay. Like, there's some extra spacing. I don't need the spacing here before the row and the columns, stuff like that. But I'm not going to go fix it. Kind of wasted effort, in my opinion. Okay. Yeah, we got those. So, we have a main.js file that we're going to use. Now, remember, with jQuery, we want to use the document.ready. Document. ready. And inside of there, we're going to have ourselves one of those fun anonymous functions. And all of our code can live in these magic functions. However, a lot of people seem to get tripped up by the fact that we're doing everything in this document.ready. So there's extra curly braces to take into account, right? You have the top and the bottom. You don't actually have to write all of your code in that. You just need to call your code in that, right? So as long as we call the code in there, we should be okay. So I mean, our click handlers, when we build them, we're going to need to do that when we build the click handlers. But when we actually write the code and the click handlers run, we don't need to do anything technically because the code's not being run yet. And by what I mean by that is we're going to write all of our code that actually needs to be executed outside of the document.ready and then just hook it all up in the document.ready. It's a much cleaner way to do it. It's more like what you'd see in like real professional programming, where it's like limit the exposure to this weird document.ready function to the minimum amount. It'll take some refactoring, we'll figure it out. But first thing to think about is clearing the results. So why don't we just clear the results? So we're going to write the function out here, clear, okay? Now, clearing the results, what is that going to look like? Well, we have input 1, operator, input 2, and total, right? Go back to our HTML. I'm going to scroll back down here. Yep, input 1, operator, input 2, and result. Oh, look at that. I already messed it up. So jQuery has a fun syntax to let us just do comma delimited. Input 2. Now remember I did classes here. So if I were to go load, right here, this is what happens when we load the page, right? You see a result, a whole results panel, basically. If I were to just call my clear function, right there, and then reload, it's gone, right? Because our clear function's still being called as soon as the document's ready, but we're defining it outside of that, so we don't got to worry about all those extra curly braces, because they're a pain in the ass, right? Alright, what else are we going to need? Well, we're going to need to keep track of our variables, right? We're going to need to keep track of our inputs and our operator and all that stuff. Okay, so I'll just call them the same thing. And we're going to make them strings, because we want to account for, like, long inputs and stuff. Right? Or multiple numbers. By the way, don't be afraid to interrupt me or anything if you just have a question on something I'm doing. Okay. And easy thing to do, just take those 4. Tab them in. If you do Shift Alt, at least on Linux, you can do the multi-select or multi-line, and then you just delete it all right away. Boom, we're cleared. We're ready to go. We're ready to start again. Okay, great. Any questions so far? So the big question here was, yeah, Matt?
So your parentheses are your strings? Is that what you said?
The parentheses are the, what do you mean?
Yeah, in the bar result, bar input 2 equals the parentheses.
Oh, those are quotes.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
But with quotes, just like parentheses and curly braces, make sure you always close them before you do anything else, right? Because you need a pair of quotes to do anything. So the big question Heather had was, how do I start a project like this? This is how I started. One, I made the HTML because we need the layout, right? But you know, she even commented on that, and she feels like that's the easy part. How do we start with the JavaScript? I took the easiest functionality I could think of and did that first. And then I thought about what am I going to need? What does a clear actually mean? Okay, so what gets written to the screen? What gets written to the screen are the results, right? We have the input, operator, input, and the result. All of those different actions that the user can do are the only things that are going to be written to the screen by us. So that means a clear function or like a start over function or whatever you want to call it is going to have to reset those things. So the easiest thing to do first is to reset the HTML, right? We can do that real quick with jQuery. We have a jQuery function to do it. The next thing is we're going to have to track those things somehow. How do you keep track of a value? Well, you have a variable. So we're going to need to have some variables. So I assigned one variable per user action, basically. And I set them to their default value when I clear the DOM. So then everything's in sync. We're good. Easiest functionality first, when you can do it, right? Sometimes you have a natural starting point. In this one, you don't really. You can kind of do a bunch of stuff. So what's going to be probably our next starting point? Well, that would probably be clicking a number and assigning a number, because that's the first thing we're going to want them to do, right? Click 1 through 9 through 0, whatever, and be able to make a number that you're going to do something to. So we're going to make a number click. I actually don't need E in this case. So number click, another function that we're going to define outside of the document ready. We can use jQuery in it and all that because it's not executed until a button will be clicked. But we're not building the onClick handler yet. We're taking this function, we're building it somewhere else. Okay? So what is this going to be used with? The number buttons. The number buttons had a class, right? Which was button num, like that. So we'll access them like so. So what do we got to find? Well, we got to find the button that was clicked. Or the we got to figure out what the value is of the button that was clicked. In jQuery, if you wrap this, remember that crazy this, inside the jQuery syntax, that jQuery function, you get the jQuery version of the DOM node that we've clicked. Because this number click function, you may all be saying, oh, well, isn't that going to be the window? It would be, but jQuery does magical things behind the scenes to take this function and make this the DOM node that you've clicked. Anyway, if we do this.val, we'll get the value of that button we clicked out of there. So we have our first input, input 1. We're just going to do plus equals value. Last thing we need to do, we need to update the DOM. Okay? Input 1 dot text equals input 1. Okay. That's all well and good. But if we were to click the buttons right now, literally nothing happens. I open up my console, check that bad boy out. Literally nothing happens. Right? Because it's not hooked up. We've got to hook up the jQuery button click handler. Button num. Dot on. Click. Number click. Now notice, I do not have the parentheses after number click here because that will call the function. We do not want to call the function right now. We want the function called when we click the button. To do that, we have to give jQuery, this onClick handler, our number click function like it's a variable. This is like it's a variable at this point. When you give a named value, right? You can treat it like a variable. Yeah.
This way they have the definition, that other way of defining the function.
The anonymous one?
The way where you say variable, non-click equals function.
Yep. Yeah, because functions can be variables in JavaScript. JavaScript has what's called higher order functions. They're a first class citizen. Okay. Boom. Nice. We are good to go. Clear doesn't work though. Bummer. That's an easy fix, right? Anyone know how to do this? Make another on click for the clear button. So the class is clear button, so I did inconsistent naming here, so that's going to bother me. So I'm just going to do button clear really quick. But yeah, to make another on click for the clear button, I can do dot button clear on click. Oops. And I can pass in clear. Again, without calling the parentheses because I don't want to call it. And here's the difference. Right here, I'm calling clear. I'm calling clear immediately after I set this on click handler, but I can also click the clear button and still get it to clear, right? Click a bunch of numbers. Nice. Nice. Look at that. That's cool. It works. So we can click numbers effectively, and we can click clear. We're halfway done, right? Not really. Feels like it, though. Okay, so now we want to be able to click on an operator and determine what operator to use, right?
Which line in the HTML did you alter to get to the button clear?
Ah, I did that really quickly. Line 112. There's the button that is the clear button, and it said it had the class clear dash button. I changed it to button dash clear to make it consistent with my other naming, because I'm anal retentive like that.
Oh, okay.
So function operator. We should probably call it operator click, right? Var operator equals $this dot val, right? Oh, we have a global variable called operator, don't we?
Yeah.
Ooh, what's gonna happen here? We redefine it, so what would happen? Would we ever actually set the operator?
No.
Well, it was set it within the scope of that function.
But do we want that?
Probably not.
No, we want it to be set globally. So we're gonna rename this one or we could just be even better yet, set the global version of operator. Jeez, if I could type, I'll get it eventually. Equal to this dot val, right? Now what do we need to do? We need to update the HTML with the operator, which should be easy. We just have the operator class, because that's where we're storing it, dot text equals operator, right? What is that going to come in as? Hold on, I'm trying to alt-tab to it and it's not working. That didn't work. Alright, so we have an operator now. Oh, good catch. I didn't make the click handler. So this is button op on click on operator click. So there's going to be a few things wrong with this. Add. Okay, well we don't want that. Oh. Oh. Notice something? I haven't clicked a number yet. It's the word, and I can overwrite it simply by clicking another one. Probably none of those we really want. Now the override one might be okay, but we definitely don't want to be able to add an operator if we have not selected a first input, right? So, if input 1 equals an empty string, why don't we just return? We don't want to do anything. Return says, go away, stop, get out of the function, escape. If there's no input 1, there's no reason to have an operator. Now there's another way we can handle this. So here's the question. Do we want to say once you select an operator you're stuck, or should you be able to change your operator before you select your second input? What do you guys think? You should be able to change until you select your second input? That would work for me, I think. So we could do that and say, or input 2 does not equal empty string, right? So if we don't have an input 1, we should not be able to select an operator. Or if we do have an input 2, we should not be able to change our operator. Otherwise, go nuts. Change your operator. So what this does is limits the scope of what our operator functions can do, right? So I can change this all day long. Since I can't select the second one yet, you'll notice too that the first one still lets me click, right? But if I click on this and I don't have an input 1, no operator. But we have another bug too. We notice now that number click, the first number click, we had the first operator, and then we had the first input, then the operator, and then when we clicked again, we got the first input again. Well, we probably didn't want that, right? So we get the value out. If input, let's just say if operator equals empty string, right? So if we don't have an operator, then we're going to go ahead and call this functionality and put things into input 1. Otherwise, we're going to do this with input 2. Nice. Now, one thing we didn't address, well, let's test this first. Let's make sure it works. Okay, so what was the new rule? We should not be able to press input 1 again after we have an operator. If we do it, it'll go to input 2, theoretically. So, input 1, woohoo. Divide, nice. Input 2, nice. And we can't change our operator. Getting close. Okay, so the operator, we never finished that problem of determining what the string should be, right? Well, we can cheat. We take this, take the text out, and just put it into this operator text. Bam. Why does that work? What was that? Does anyone know?
The actual text value of the button is the operator.
Is the operator, right? So now I come in here. Bam. Look at that. That is beautiful. Change it. Sweet. It's getting pretty good, huh? We're almost there. Alright. Now, what's left? We have input 1, we have input 2, we have the operator. So we need the equals, I suppose, right? Now before we do anything, let's go ahead and assign this so we don't forget. Button equals. Click. Equals click. Okay, now the equals is set up. If we were to click it right now, it wouldn't do anything because this code didn't do anything. Now look at this, document ready. Doesn't that look a whole lot cleaner than what we've seen so far? Doesn't it look a whole lot easier to manage too? Because we don't have to worry about these curly braces getting in our code and making things hard to pay attention to, right? Making things hard to remember where all the curly braces are, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, equals. What should equals do? Well, if we don't have an input 1, if we don't have an operator, if we don't have an input 2, probably nothing, right? What if we have a total already? Should we allow it to process if we have a total? Probably not. Nope, not resized by. So if result does not equal an empty string, we're also going to return. So note one thing while I'm doing this. I have these early returns I'm using in every function. Why? Because then I don't got to do a bunch of if-elses. 2, I'm also splitting up some of the checks. So I have that first one that checks 3 things, but they have like conditions, right? They're all checking for, is this thing equal to nothing? And then I split out the, is this thing not equal to something? When you have a lot of Boolean checks like that, it makes sense to split some out by their types of conditions, so it's a little easier to remember what's going on. Early returns are really important. You're going to want to use those. And splitting things up logically by how they're checked is another good one. Notice too, indenting, it's all very consistent, right? Make sure your indenting and your spacing is all very consistent. There's one space between each function. There's one new line, I'm sorry, between each function. There's one new line, blank new line, between logical groups of functionality. Now what I determine as a logical group of functionality is very subjective, and that may be different for you, and that's okay. That's not something I would ever criticize someone on, unless it was really weird, right? Like, if you decided that for some reason that needed to be there, I'd be like, why? Or like that, you know, I'd be like, really, why? Come on. The double pipe, or? We've seen or. Now, if they all remember it, I don't know. But we've seen it before. I know I've talked about it. Does anyone not know what the double pipe does? It does the or, okay? So by or, I mean, it's saying right here, input 1, if input 1 does not, or equals a blank string, which means what? We haven't ever clicked input 1, right? Or the operator is a blank string, or the input 2 is a blank string. What it's checking is, if this first condition is false, we're done. We're going to hit this return. Or it's true, we're going to hit this return, right? If this one ends up being false, it says, well, okay, if this one's true, I'll check this one. And if it happens to be true, we'll hit this return. And then it's like, okay, both of those were false. If this one's true, I'll end up here. Okay, great. Now, there's a distinction between the and operator and the or operator. And the and requires all of the conditions to be true. So in this case, input 1 needs to be nothing, and the operator needs to be nothing, and the input 2 needs to be nothing. If any one of these 3 conditions comes back as false, we will not hit the return. Yeah?
So the or you do else, so the and is also an if statement, so multiple ifs.
Multiple ifs? Like if, else if kind of thing, or?
Well, the or is else, right?
You think, could you write this with if else instead of the or symbol?
Is that what you're asking? Could I write it with if else instead of or and double and?
I understand that, like that's perfectly, I understand that. But I thought like because the else, the or is else if, I thought this was also equal to if.
I see what you're saying. If you had all of the, so okay, I see what you're saying now. So for the ands, we can't, because we need all of those things to be true, right? But you're correct in saying that if I took these or statements, I could put each one of these in an individual if, and if any one of them were true, it would return. That's exactly what we're saying. If any one of these things is true, we need to return. So what he's saying is if operator right? It's the same thing, and I can actually take out this or, because they're they both either one of them needs to be true. They don't both need to be true. Either one needs to be true, right? And then I can do the same thing right here. These are functionally equivalent to the or. Yeah, that's right. Now the and, they're not the same, right? Because you need all of them to be true. It adds a lot more code, but it's definitely plausible. So I'm just gonna add these back in, just because it's so much more, blows it up a lot. Okay, so what do we actually need to do in this result? Yeah, Andy?
I have a syntax somewhere that I can't keep up if I keep looking for it, and my stuff's not working, so
Okay.
would you be able to slack off this JS?
Yeah, do you want me to slack it right now? The state it's in?
If
Sure.
that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I will do that. That's a good idea. Alright, so now we're at the point where we're about to do our equals, right? We're about to go ahead and say, oh, well, we need to add this stuff up, make a total. Okay, so everyone should be up to date with my JavaScript now if they wanted to use it or they're following along. Okay, so what are we going to do? We need to take our inputs. Our inputs right now are strings. Can you add two strings together? Sure, you can. But what do you get? A longer string. And I don't think we want that as our calculator result. We sure could, but that wouldn't be very fun. So why don't we turn those into numbers? There's this fun parseInt function, which is like the cheap way to just quickly say, if it's a number, go ahead and turn it into one. So now we have two numbers. So we can add, divide, so on, so forth. The next thing we need to do is decide how we're going to handle our operators, right? So we have the ability to do a bunch of if-else statements, or we can use something called the switch operator. Now, we haven't talked about this in class yet, but it's much more effective when you have a bunch of conditions. So, a little bit of new syntax. It's not too different from the if-else, though. Use this keyword switch. And we take our operator. Boom. Put in our curly braces. Okay? So, instead of if, we've got switch. Except for the switch has to check an explicit value. So this is either a string, a number, or a boolean. That's it. You can't put arrays in here. You can't put objects in here. It's just those three. That's it. They're raw primitive values. So case, add. What this is saying is, if the operator is literally the text add, so if operator equals 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 add, we're going to go ahead and run this block of code. And when we're done, we're going to break. And what I mean by break, I mean we're going to skip everything else and we're not going to do anything else in the switch statement. I'm actually going to make a var total as a number because that's what we're going to set. So we're doing addition. Total. Whoops. That was a weird jump. Sometimes my wrist hits my trackpad. That's why you see weird jumps. So we're going to do number 1 plus number 2, right? Once we have a total, we can do result plus equals total, which turns it into a string, since result's a string. And then we can do, what do I call this? Result here. So why don't we test this out for our add before we do a whole lot more. I'm just going to do 7 plus 6 equals, bam, it didn't do anything. Why didn't it do anything? Now that I don't know. Yeah, results up here. Not getting anything in the console. Well, now I'm going to take advantage of some fun tricks that we haven't taught you yet, such as debugging functions, because I don't know why this broke. It's possible. So let's do 7 plus 6 equals. Equals didn't do anything. Button equals must not be working. Okay. The little thing. Yep. How many of you run into those problems already? I just ran into it. It happens all the time. So definitely don't feel bad about it. Okay, 7 plus 6, 13. Nice. We have, theoretically, a working calculator now. It only adds, but that's most of what you need. Alright, so we've got more cases, right? We have a bunch more cases. So we're going to just copy this. We'll leave them add right now. I'm going to format document. What are the different operators? Subtract, multiply, oops, that is multiply, divide, and power. These are like Captain Planet's powers, right? Multiply, divide, heart, wind. No? Okay. I got one left, that's all that matters. Let's use our math.power, math.pow. Number 1 and number 2. Is this it? Are we done? Unless I messed something up just now. 7 plus 6. Let's see if this still works. Beautiful. 3 times 3. That's not right. The little things again. Oops. Okay, well we found a bug, right? Testing is important. Nice. And then what happens if I hit these numbers? Oh my word. That probably shouldn't happen. Well, we found another bug. Let's go fix that. Number click. Easy peasy. If result does not equal, right? Because if we already have a result, we don't want to let anything happen here. Okay, that bug's fixed. Squashed. Nice. What was that? Okay. Sorry. So, what I did was, we were clicking on that button, and then after I hit the result, we realized that we could still change input 2, right? Which isn't functionality we want to allow in this calculator. So, what I had to do, if I have a result, I shouldn't be able to click anything, and right now, number click lets us change the input 2 regardless of if we have a result. The only check it has is if there's an operator. So I went to this and I said, okay, if we have a result, i.e. the result does not equal a blank string anymore, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to let the number click work. And that's why I came to that conclusion. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's test some more stuff. 2 divided by 2 equals 1. Nice. What about 22 divided by 2? 11. Sick. Let's do... We will do that. 2 to the third power is 8. 2 divided by 0 is infinity. Nice.
Do 0 minus 1, see what happens?
0 minus 1. Negative 1. 88 plus 99 equals 187. Nice. 333 minus 958, 2147, equals a big number. I think that's right. Can I change the operator after I have a result? Nope. Divided by 2 equals, I cannot. I also can't hit equals anymore. Now I can't do anything. I'm done. 2 to the power 2 gave you 0? You might have spelled something wrong in your case statement. Okay, so, yes, I went pretty fast. Was that helpful? Seeing that all again, with more explanation. Let me select this out. We didn't add anything to CSS. All right, before we take a quick break, does anyone have any questions on any of this? Or any particular piece of functionality we wrote out that maybe I was going too fast, or maybe I didn't explain myself well enough as to why I thought to do it that way? Matt asked some great questions about the Boolean operators. I didn't even think to bring that up. Stephanie brought that up. And then Matt asked a question. So those were awesome. Those are the kind of things I want to hear, right? Because those are the things it's like, well, I don't know how much you guys really know, you know? Because I just assume. Yeah, Jesse?
This is not probably just me, but wouldn't you normally point out the functionality and notification statements after other functions?
Preference. Preference. I could.
That's one of mine.
Yeah, I could, but then I have a bunch of small functions, right? So it just depends. Yeah. If they were larger, then yeah, I would. Any questions? Cool. How about at 8 o'clock we reconvene to do our last 2 hours of hanging out and going over stuff? So go ahead and take a break. Also, if you're streaming, I'm going to turn off the stream because literally the last 2 hours of the class are just review. So if you are streaming, just review, I guess.